Go straight to our chief anchor, George Stephanopoulos, with what this means. George, break it down for us.
First of all, this is Titanic, Dan. This is big breaking news, as you said. Not only has Justice Kennedy been a key swing vote on the Supreme Court, he has been the swing vote, the deciding justice in so many closely held 5-4 decisions. One of the few justices, with the exception perhaps of Justice Roberts on a couple of cases, willing to side with the justices appointed by Democratic presidents on the Supreme Court on issues like gay rights, gay marriage, abortion, so many other key social issues. Justice Kennedy has been the key vote. This is setting up a massive battle for the Supreme Court, gives President Trump a chance to put a decisive stamp on the Supreme Court, but you can expect Democrats to look at anyone that President Trump appoints to the Supreme Court with a close eye, with scrutiny, fighting it all the way. What they remember is that when President Obama had the chance to appoint a Supreme Court justice in his last year, Republicans blocked it, did not let them fill the vacancy. They're going to fight this hard.
But George, let's put up a list of the current Supreme Court justices. You can see, viewers at home will be able to see on the left side of the screen those who lean liberal, and on the right side those who lean conservative. Kennedy occupying that key central middle spot there. So talk to us again about his key role and what it will mean for the court going forward if Donald J. Trump can place his pick in his stead.
Well, when you look at the list of judges that President Trump is considering for the Supreme Court, when you look at Neil Gorsuch, his first choice for the Supreme Court with the first vacancy that he was able to fill last year, he is much more likely to appoint someone who is in the mode of Justice Alito, Justice Thomas, solid conservatives on the court, like Justice Gorsuch, rather than someone like Justice Kennedy, who has been someone who's moved between the coalitions, moved between the liberals and conservatives on different issues in order to form those 5-4 majorities. This would, if President Trump gets his way with whoever he appoints, he is going to have a Supreme Court that is decidedly conservative, that is able to form much more decisive majorities around some of these big issues.
Let's get it to ABC News Chief White House Correspondent Jon Karl, who's standing by in our Washington bureau. John, give us a sense. I know it's early. It's extremely early. This news is just minutes old. But how likely is it for the president to be able to get his pick through?
I think it's going to be an epic battle, as George just mentioned. But I have talked to people involved on the president's team on this, and they are going to push to get a person nominated and confirmed before the midterm elections. That will be a monumental task. Democrats will do everything in their power to prevent that from happening. Remember, the Republicans have right now, Dan, simply a 1-seat majority in the Senate. Thanks to the way they have changed the rules, they can confirm a justice on a simple majority. And they will want to get this done before the midterm elections, before there is any chance that majority goes away. And I am told also that list that you heard George mention, the list of conservative judges that the president elect back in November, but back after the election put out, is the list that they will be going from to look for a replacement for Kennedy. In other words, a hard-line conservative. The people on the president's team involved in this do not believe in the tradition of you replace a moderate with a moderate. There will be an effort to replace Kennedy was somebody that would decisively sway the balance of power in the Supreme Court.
John, let's talk about the U.S. Senate, because this is where it's all going to come down to the United States Senate. And as you said, the Republicans have a 1-vote majority there. So there are Republican senators who have contentious relationships with the President of the United States. John McCain comes to mind. Jeff Flake from Arizona comes to mind. So is it possible that we could see members of the president's own party stop him on this?
No question. Also, there's a question of John McCain has not been in Washington for a vote for some time, obviously suffering from brain cancer. He's been back in Arizona. There's a question of whether or not he would even be here to cast a vote which they would need potentially. And also you have Susan Collins, who hasn't had as an openly contentious a relationship with the president as somebody like Jeff Flake or John McCain, but who is very much a moderate, pro-abortion rights Republican who could potentially balk at the idea of somebody that would do away, for instance, with Roe v. Wade. There would be the decisive vote to do away with Roe v. Wade. So this, even if the Republicans, even if the president can manage to get somebody nominated, to get through confirmation hearings and get to a vote on the U.S. Senate before the midterms with that one-seat majority, it will be very difficult to get somebody from this list of judges that they're working from.
And let's bring back in our chief anchor, George Stephanopoulos, on the phone, who wants to weigh in on this score. George.
Let me pick up on that. I think John's exactly right. There's going to be enormous pressure on every Republican to hang together with the president and approve his nominee. Judges has been one of the policy issues that has really been a glue for the Republican Party. On the other hand, with that one-seat majority that John is talking about, every Republican senator, is going to have tremendous leverage. You've had people like Jeff Flake, you mentioned him, Bob Corker, the senator from Tennessee. Both of them are going to be retiring from the Senate. Both of them, Senator Flake especially, has talked about holding up judicial nominations if he doesn't get his way, if the president insists on imposing tariffs and other Republican issues. Bob Corker has been quite critical of the president on tariffs as well. As John mentioned, Senator Susan Collins, also Senator Lisa Murkowski of Alaska might be another senator who would be reluctant to vote for a justice who is going to overturn Roe v. Wade. So this is going to be a monumental battle. Now, there is a question on the Democratic side as well. You've got some Democrats in red states who are up for re-election, Joe Manchin in West Virginia, Heidi Heitkamp in North Dakota, who are going to be facing some pressure to vote with the president and against their party on this issue. But this is the kind of issue that tends to galvanize parties, tends to bring them together. I really think we can't overstate how big a battle this is going to be.
As if we did not already live in interesting times. Let's bring in ABC News Supreme Court reporter Terry Moran, who's been covering the court for many, many years. Terry, as we round out this special report, would you hold forth for a little bit on the legacy of soon-to-be retiring Justice Anthony M. Kennedy? In particular, we know he made his mark on gay rights.
He did. Will go down in history as a great justice at the vanguard of the gay liberation movement in the law. An unlikely candidate for that. He was originally 30 years ago now, he came to the court after the nomination of Robert Bork, the staunch conservative, failed. And that was the most epic battle for the Supreme Court that anyone had seen up to that time. And it makes sense in some ways that Kennedy's replacement will face a similar epic battle. But in addition to gay rights, Justice Kennedy was very important in other fields as well. For example, when he came on the court, there was a pitched battle to overturn Roe versus Wade. And many people thought at the time that he would be the vote to overturn Roe versus Wade. He helped preserve the core of that decision. And now as he leaves, it is once again an open question about that decision and others. But he leaves a legacy of a libertarian bent and a gentle approach in many ways that is, frankly, out of step with the times that we're in today.
Terry Moran, John Carl, and George Stephanopoulos, thank you all. Again, the breaking news, Justice Anthony M. Kennedy stepping down from the Supreme Court at the age of 81 years old after 30 monumental years on the court. This is a huge breaking news story. We will continue to cover it all day long on ABC News Radio and abcnews.com. We'll have much more coming up on World News Tonight with David Muir. For now, I'm Dan Harris in New York. Thank you.